morning, everybody. My name is Kathy Johnson, and I am the Family and Community Partnership Supervisor here at Westmoreland Community Action in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I have been involved with the Early Head Start and Head Start program for over 25 years. My oldest daughter, who is now 28 years old, she was in Early Head Start. And during that time, I honestly had no clue what Early Head Start was. It was the late 90s. I came home from out shopping one day and there was a flyer hanging on my door knocker. And I called it. And what is this? And they explained to me, and I was, going through a divorce at that time. And I thought, well, this is a great way for me to get my children involved in something because I had a newborn baby at home. And I'm going to tell you, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. My weekly home visitor would come in every week, and that was my weekly friend. That was my only adult connection to the outside world because I was with my children all day long. So I loved having my home visitor coming in. And then whenever my oldest child transitioned into Head Start, it was actually 9/11 of '01. And I had just put her on the school bus. And I walked in the house as the first plane went into the building. And I called the school because I knew she was on the bus. I didn't know what was happening in the world, zero clue. And I called the school and they calmed me down. And they basically told me she has no clue what's going on. She was four. Of course, she didn't know. But as a parent, it scared me. But it was the staff that kept me calm that day. And even though I sat outside and waited for an hour for that bus to bring her back home that day, it was still the staff that kept me calm. And I am eternally grateful for this program. So fast forward a little bit, and my youngest daughter, who is now 26, joins the Early Head Start program. And then she goes into Head Start. She transitions into kindergarten. And this was 21 years ago. And the teacher said to me, Kathy, you're always here volunteering. You keep your visits. Why don't you come work for us? And I said, like I said, I was going through a divorce. How am I going to do this? I had zero clue. And I'm like, everything I know is in business. She said, give it a try. So I applied. I started out as a substitute. That lasted one day. And before you knew it, I was working. I was a 20-hour-a-week aide. That in 4 months, I became a family advocate. And I was a family advocate for many, many, many years. And what really drove me as a family advocate was I understood where a lot of the families were coming from. I understood some of the parents, if they were going through a divorce, if they were having trouble, financial issues. I knew what it was like to sleep on somebody else's couch and drag my kids places. I knew what that was like, but it was the program and the employment with our agency that really pushed me. And my goal back then was to work at the central office. I loved being in the classroom. I loved home visiting, but my drive was eventually to make my way to the office. And I did that 5 years ago. In time, my oldest daughter, she went on to community college, went into Seton Hill, got her master's through Pitt. And this Saturday, she is going for her licensure. She's an MSW right now. So she has been driven through our education that we provide here because that was always instilled in her head, school, school, school. And Head Start was the foundation to get her into school and the socialization, the teachers, the staff. My youngest daughter, she's a licensed certified vet technician. So she is 26 and their drive has just always been school. I've always, made sure that I gave back to this program. I still love going in. You can put me anywhere in Head Start. My heart's always going to be in that classroom with the families. I'm going to tell you, I miss home visiting. I really do. There are a lot of times I miss going into a home and just sitting back and enjoying talking to families. But through everything, my girls did achieve, and in 2018, I received the self-sufficiency award in the state of Pennsylvania. And I was presented out in Harrisburg, and my family was allowed to attend with me. It was a great honor. It was a great stepping stone to achieve my goal to work at central office one day. Does anybody have any questions for me? Because I can keep going. Okay, but just know, I mean, it is very important that our children, attend Head Start. I know many families who who have achieved so much by being in our program. I had a family probably about 15 years ago. Mom and dad, they were struggling. Mom is now a registered nurse, and dad works for the railroad. So I have seen a lot of our families reach their goals. Even if you feel that family's goal is unrealistic, it's not realistic. Oh gosh, like, come on, they've made it happen. Oh, the most memorable thing about a home visit for me. Oh my goodness, there's many. Um, Gosh, I used to love when my very first home visitor would come in, because like I said, that was my friend. We would walk to the library. I didn't, never thought about taking my children to the library. Um, Gosh, there's so many. There's so many because I had many wonderful home visitors. I actually have three in the time I was in the program. And the one home visitor, she actually still works for us. She's been here almost 35 years. So it's nice that she knew my story. So to honestly say a memorable home visit, there's just many. And I know there was one time that my home visitor was there and my world came crashing down. And she sat there with me and she just made me focus on her, that I was going to be okay. I was going to be okay. It was real easy for her to say, oh, things will be okay. And it was real hard for me to accept because in my mind, everything was spinning out of control. It wasn't going to be okay, but it was. That was my calming moment. So I will say, most memorable, my family advocates just being there for me and helping me, and whenever I thought that I was, down and out, she was there to lift me back up. Okay, so I'm going to get on the chat and read. Let me see.
I can help too, Kathy, if it is beneficial.
Some things I enjoyed about socialization is the different variety of children that show up. You have 0 to 3. So you have a 2-year-old that's going in there and they see a baby. They've never seen a baby before. Just interacting with other children. And the Head Start parents were my only friends too. Because if I wasn't in the classroom volunteering, if I wasn't at a socialization, I was at home. So really the Head Start parents were my friends. So I enjoyed going and seeing them because in my mind, my children just were not going to socialization. I was going to go visit a friend while I was there where my children were enjoying. Most helpful tools that I received. Many. Gosh. Resources. Blackburn. I don't know if you know what Blackburn is. Mental health services. So I was going through a lot of mental health issues at the time. And my family advocate provided me with mental health information. And I took her up on it. I went to the one hospital and I saw a therapist for a brief time. So she would provide that. I had a family advocate one time ask me if I wanted to start a bank account, a savings account, because at the time they were offering that if you put so much in, they would too. So I did that for a brief time too. And that was a very, very valuable resource because I was making $5. I'm sorry, I'm lying. I was making $6 an hour. My babysitter was charging me $5 an hour. So I really didn't have that kind of money to put aside. And at the time, I wasn't receiving support at that moment. So I really didn't have the money to do it. But once I got that couple extra bucks, I gave it a whirl. So I've received many, wonderful resources. And I think the best resources we also provide are events that happen in our community because that gets your children and you out in the community becoming an advocate, learning about other agencies, and being able to advocate and help other people. So going to these events, I might know you on the side and you might have a story. I might find an information for you at that resource event. Um, um, what did I do to prepare my children before, after? So I worked a lot with my children. So my children went to Head Start, but we also played school all the time. So when my youngest was in Head Start, her teacher on the conference told me she needs to quit writing in cursive. And I said, I can't stop her because my older one was in first grade learning cursive. My 4-year-old wanted to do everything my 6-year-old was doing. So that was really a little bit of a struggle, but I wasn't going to stop her from wanting to learn new things. And if anything, my daughter got the greatest social skills too, both of them. And I think that's what helps them with their careers right now is having the social skills because when you're little, I mean, you see when some of the kids come into the classroom, they're not sure how to talk to other children or how to play. And I feel that, once they learn, that really helps them achieve goals going into kindergarten because they're going to know how to sit and they're going to know how to listen and share and play with other children.